Welcome to Gen Z Hoops, the Gen Z basketball, coaching, and sports business show.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Gen Z Hoops podcast. Today I'm joined by NBA trainer Brian Khoorchand.
What's up, Ashton?
How you doing, Coach Brian?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for this opportunity today. So let's just jump right into it, man. Can you talk a little bit about your connection to the game of basketball growing up at a young age?
Yeah. Like many kids, just growing up, idolizing and seeing the greatness of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant was huge for our culture, passed down from our parents and uncles who would turn on the game of basketball. From there, just picking it up, playing at the recreational level, then taking it to the high school level. And as I got deeper into the game of what I guess came around the game with practice, recovery, playing on AU teams, playing with club teams, whatever came about the game of basketball, that's when I really fell in love with the process itself. And it's kind of led me to how I train my athletes and why I still make basketball probably my top priority of a sport that I train.
So what first inspired you to get into performance training? And what made you decide that this is what you want to devote your life to at the end of the day?
That's a good question. What made me really get into performance training was I really didn't have any options as an athlete left. So I had a heart problem when I started running collegiate track. And it's at that point when I was told that I couldn't run anymore in the manner in which I did, because it was dangerous for the well-being of my life. And I couldn't perform, so I wanted to figure out how I could keep my performance up from the sidelines. And then I started doing that for others as experiments. And really good mentors who believed in me and paved the way for giving me the knowledge to say, hey, it's not over, you just have to shift your focus.
So the phrase of your brand, train to transfer, has become almost like the identity of your brand. Can you break down what that really means to you? Why did you feel that needed to be your mission?
That needs to be my mission because I started with what I didn't want, which is not having sports become just your identity, because that was just my identity growing up. And then once I lost that, I lost my identity. So I created that off of what I didn't want. And what I did want was very clear, which was athletes or anyone in general to have more of a holistic view of performance. So we've shifted from sports performance, T3 sports performance, to T3 performance, because I want to prioritize human performance, which are sometimes variables or measurables that we just can't measure.
And look at us right now. We're in the typical warm-up spot. Sun gleaming on us right here.
Yeah, for those who don't know, our warm-ups, at any chance we can, as it's warm, is done outside. So we can get some natural sunlight, get outside, change the scenery up, and start our warm-up typically with just feeling the senses of the sun on us, outside, the birds. Then besides the senses, change the scenery up to what we're used to, thinking about going in the gym, grinding it out, getting all the visuals. Well, let's change it up and just see each other for what we are, no music, and just be grateful for us being present in this ability to warm up today and be outside.
It also ties back to the values of being a human being as well, kind of just like being at one with like nature and the world as well, instead of just trying to like grind it out, saying like sometimes like when I go in the gym a lot of times to lift, you kind of have that negative mentality, kind of thinking like the world is against you, so you can push weight as much as you can. But out here, it kind of gives you that whole holistic view, I believe.
Yeah, works for us, and I don't want, that makes it sound super spiritual. I think we still got to grind, but before we grind, let's take a moment to just take this moment in. We've got to practice a lift ahead of us that maybe 2 weeks ago we couldn't because we had an ankle sprain. So let's just take it in.
So you said you focus mostly on basketball. So you've actually shifted a lot of your philosophy lately to highlight more movement quality. Mm-hmm. So things like agility, cutting, change of direction. So why has that become a priority now?
Well, It's always been a priority, actually. So movement quality is always a priority. Movement quality in the lift itself was more of a priority. Now I prioritize movement quality in the sport itself, or movements that relate to the sport. So the reason I've shifted that sense is just really the idea that positioning and leverage create the strength and speed that most people want. So most people come in here and they're like, hey, I want to get stronger, I want to get faster. Everyone says the same thing. Do you know how to use it? And if you know how to use it, do you know when to use it? And those are the two questions we typically ask behind programming.
So your website, the T3 website,
Yeah.
talks about bridging the performance gap. Can you explain what the gap really is, especially for youth athletes?
Mm-hmm. I think it's understanding and awareness. I think it always will be. And that gap is something that might be different for everyone, because your understanding of it might be different than his understanding of it. And his body understanding of it has a different style of this person. So when we say bridging the performance gap, it means for you. So what does that gap mean for you? How do you take your performance from here to here? Let's find and identify the gap for you, and then figure out how to bridge it. And that might be different for you than it is for me.
Yeah, that is what I realized, like, growing up. Like, nowadays with social media, like, we see like all these kids, especially when high schoolers coming up, like we see all these kids getting offers, like all these highlight tapes, mixtapes. You're always like trying to like compare yourself to the next guy, you know what I mean? But in actuality, I feel like every player actually is different. Everyone has their own journey at the end of the day. So
yeah, so we want to highlight that.
So you emphasize confidence building as well at T3. What does that actually look like in a typical workout or practice over here?
It could look many different ways, sometimes breaking it down and building it up. But most of the time, just reinforcement of positive self-talk and positive self-thoughts, and not running away from the thoughts that come into your head, but more about rephrasing them. So thinking about, and again, this goes back to our last question, understanding and awareness. If you don't have the prerequisite understanding awareness, you can't understand what's coming to your mind at that current time, what your self-talk is or what your tendencies are. We have to identify that first, and then from there, we can go in and be aware of how we're going to rephrase it. Or do we even need to rephrase it? Let's keep it simple.
You know what that made me think of right there? I don't know if you remember, but I used to be like so afraid of doing box jumps. I remember like you, Austin, and Tay were like standing right there like, no, man, you're like not doing anything else until you like jump on the stand box. And I remember it took like almost like my whole like session for me to like get on the box.
Right.
And you're like, you're not doing anything else, man. Like not picking up a weight.
I said
nothing.
that?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
You started like getting into it. You're like, no, man, you're staying right there.
Yeah.
Great times though.
That's great times. Wow.
But that goes right to that emphasis right there of like confidence building at the end of the day. Because now, like, now I can easily jump on a box like without even thinking about it. I can even add like some plates on it to like make it higher now.
Yeah. Yeah. We might see it, but how do we get you to see it?
Exactly. So with the focus on high quality movement patterns now, how do you help athletes avoid just like chasing numbers in the weight room?
Conversation. Sorry, I don't really have a longer answer for that, but typically conversation. We're focused on really having some real dialogue of what we're chasing, what means, what's important to us, and what's not important to us. So there's numbers are a good mark of where we're at, but we should never be chasing something so objective like that.
So you've had the chance to train NBA players. Like we've seen Jared Roden, New York guy, another New York guy, Shamari Pons is in here. Even like 2 days ago, John Petroselli at Malloy College, he was in here, and especially overseas athletes as well. How do those relationships develop over time? And you talk a little bit about how different it is working with elite athletes.
Well, shout out to those guys for trusting me and always speaking good words in front of me and behind my back. And that's really where it's coming from, is putting the care and trust and quality of work into those relationships, whether it's inside the gym or outside the gym, checking in, phone calls. Everyone's a friend. I mean, that's why it's called personal training and personal development. So everyone's a friend, everyone is someone I care about, and vice versa. And from there, let the rest do its job. Let the trust and let the love, quote unquote, spread out.
So as a young guy, like some high schoolers or even some college guys, a lot like can go over their head. They might overlook a lot. So what do you think like a pro values most in their off season?
That's a good question because it's so short. Structure, structure for sure. They want to make sure that the structure is set so everything flows. And if you talk about the high schoolers or the younger kids letting it go over the head, well, they have a little bit more time. They don't have as much responsibilities. They get driven. They don't have as many things on the schedule. They don't have to maybe pay bills. So the amount of decisions they make is a lot lower. For pros, you want that decision-making process to be as low as possible so that you can be as creative as possible, so you can be as in the flow of the work as possible. You don't want to be in a session thinking, oh, what am I going to do when I need to pick up my mom later? When do I have my recovery scheduled? It should already be set. I want the schedule and structure of where they eat, when they sleep, where they sleep. All that stuff matters to us.
So when you're helping a pro refine their movement, whether that's cutting, deceleration, or like even like first step explosiveness, what are the keys that you teach?
Position. Yeah. Position so that they're aware of what they're doing, when they're doing it, what their tendencies are, and maybe some movement strategies of how it can be a little bit better or how it can be better in this situation versus that situation.
So I'm actually like pretty curious.
Yeah.
Pretty curious. So like, I'm not a person with like a quick first step.
Right.
So when you're dealing with guards like who handle the ball a lot, how would you say is the most effective way to like attack someone's hip and get right around them?
On offense?
Yeah, on the offensive end.
I think you would ask a basketball player or a basketball skills trainer this, but as a movement quality coach,
yeah, that's what I meant in that sense.
As a movement quality coach, you're going to go into the qualities of things like change of speed. If we're talking about just explosive aside, it's you can be the fastest person, but if you're not in the right position,
right.
If you don't know how to change your pace and control the defense, then all you're gonna do is have a fast first step that gets blocked off.
I remember my first day, like all those years back, you guys were teaching me how to get into like those different positions, like to drop effectively, and I wasn't really thinking about it in like that sense, like how like impactful like a drop is and like a movement on the court, even like on the defensive end to like cut someone off, even when you like cross over like a cross step kind of to cut your defender off. So like all those things like really do matter. I like come to realize nowadays.
Yeah.
So can you share a story about an NBA player or an overseas player you worked out who was really like impressed with your approach to training them? If any like stand out.
I think. Well, I've trained.
Like you always had that one standout guy.
Yeah, I've actually had some pretty notable names in my career with some pretty big, like max contract guys. But one of the ones that mean the most to me, honestly, is one of my first Long Island guys ever, and his name was Charles Jenkins, and he played with
legend.
He played with the Warriors and the 76ers. And for me, that meant a lot because I was just coming from working with the Knicks in a rehab capacity and athletic testing capacity. So when I came to Long Island, because I'm not from here, and I first met Charles, I knew I had to prove myself. And I knew that was someone who already was at that level in the private sector. So I was already in the college sector and the pro sector. Now, once I got to the private sector, it all changes because in the pro sector and college sector, you don't have a choice. I'm your guy.
Yeah.
When the private sector, they choose you. So Charles was the first person to choose me, and that meant a lot to me. That he was, willing to go with me after meeting me 5 days a week and um, make me his guy.
So basically, as athletes, as like basketball players as well, we always want to get on the court or like kind of like keep putting the work in over and over again.
Yeah.
How do you help athletes avoid like overworking themselves in the off season, overtraining, or getting stuck in that like kind of like one-dimensional movement patterns as well?
A lot of these answers might be boring, but don't worry, the why behind them might be interesting. It's again conversation too. Where is it coming from? Why do you feel like working? Is that a habit? Is that a tendency? When I'm meeting you, for example, like take someone like you, I know that's just inbuilt in you. But you got a chip on your shoulder. Where's that chip on your shoulder coming from? Is it coming from a vengeful place? Which, knowing you, it's probably more on that place than and a little bit of love side, right? Or is it coming from a very loving side? Maybe that's healthy enough. Then we can overwork here.
Yeah.
We just have to get our recovery up to match that standard. If it's coming from a vengeful place and you just feel like getting in the gym because, man, you're going through a breakup or you're going through, someone waving you, that's a little different.
Yeah.
We might not need to do that. But if it makes you feel better mentally, then do that. We just need to get a recovery up. So there's a bunch of spider web questions that I go through my head, I go through with the athletes to figure out why first. And then from there, let's create strategy to either do we want this to continue or should we scale back a little bit?
So knowing myself, as you just said, it
Yeah.
comes from like a vengeful place sometimes where
Yeah.
it's like kind of like being
Right.
overlooked in
Right.
a way, and not being like on par. Sometimes not even performing well in the
Right.
game. How would you say like to like put a stop to it and micromanage it like a little bit more?
All right, so we'll go real life conversation right now,
Yeah.
which I never had with you because Ashton's actually not my client. I just see him from afar, and I see him on social media, and from there I get an energy feel. So a real life conversation is you go super hard, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you better do that in the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna train
Yeah.
that hard, you better go out there and play with
Yeah.
that kind of intensity, with that Russell Westbrook intensity.
Yeah.
But it's not always there.
Yeah.
And it's not always there because I don't know why.
Yeah.
But we got to find that reason up.
Yeah.
Find that reason first. Then the way you move and you go so intense, well, that affects your movement quality and patterns because now in the game, you're going to tighten up.
Mm-hmm.
You already have tight movements here.
Yeah.
You're thinking a lot. You have a lot of feel behind you.
Yeah.
So when you have that feel of whatever is driving you, that vengeful place, when you go out there, if you don't keep it,
Yeah.
your mind becomes open. Your thoughts become open, and then things start to seep in.
Yeah.
Well, you better keep it, man. So my advice to you is go out there and keep it, and then you're going to realize you can't keep it for long. So you go adjust how you're going about everything in here.
Yeah.
And give yourself that openness because right now you're hammering the same movements over and over. You're doing too much of the same things over and over. And if that is not your blueprint, then you got to change your blueprint.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I'd be wondering sometimes, like a lot of the time, like the intensity is there, like from like practice, and it translates a lot of time. But then there's some lulls, like where it's like moments in a game, or like even like coming into some games where it's like flat, and it's like why am I coming out like this? And then you start like overthinking a little bit. It's like damn, like what the hell is wrong with me? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you got to overthink because that's clearly not your blueprint.
Yeah.
If your good days and your bad days are over here, and that's the gap,
right?
That's not your blueprint. You got to readjust your blueprint.
Readjust it.
Your good days and bad days, right here.
Right.
It should be hard to tell.
Exactly. A lot of time, like nowadays, especially like since I've been in college, I've been thinking more about like I don't mean to go off topic here, but a lot of times like
it's your interview, bro.
Yeah. like playing hard is the standard. Like, I always played hard before, where like the good days and the bad days were like this before in high school, but now I like learned to like bridge the gap a little bit more. But now it's more like the intensity is always there on the defensive end. I'm always communicating and stuff like that, like busting my ass. You know what I mean? But like it's just like if the shots aren't falling sometimes, then I start to be like, damn, like you know what I mean? Like getting in the head. But you're right, like I do need to adjust that blueprint.
Yeah, I think so. But only time will tell.
So you have a strong presence on Instagram, YouTube, and other social channels as well. How do you see your role as an educator and a brand builder as well in those spaces?
I honestly haven't thought about it too much. I've just been staying present and trying to share a little bit more. Things I do share typically aren't on the educational side. They're more on the highlight side. So opportunities and things like this are really helpful to start that process for me.
Mm-hmm.
But how I see myself in that realm, and the short answer is it's growing, ever growing.
So when you're mentoring coaches or interns at T3, what are you basically looking for? Like what qualities in a coach do you believe makes a great coach? And it always goes beyond just the X's and O's at the end of the day, I believe.
Yeah. In a nutshell, that everything but the X's and O's is typically what I look at. Their character, in a short word or short answer. Just their character, how they handle emotions. A large part of how they treat others. Are they comfortable feeling comfortable around others and making someone else feel welcome, etc.
What do you hope T3's long-term legacy is, both in this community in Long Island, New York as a whole, and basically the whole performance industry as well?
So in Long Island and this community, I'd like it. What we're doing right now is makes me feel pretty happy. We're a community foothold. People know about us. We have a great reputation. Reputation means a lot to us, and me. And I'd like to become the standard in a few categories when it comes to training on Long Island. Within the realm of New York, I'd like to do the same thing. And at the bigger level, the national level, I'd like to be up there with some of the guys that I look up to, some of the brands that we look up to, businesses that we follow, a quote unquote blueprint of, to be recognized as a place that's trusted, that people can send athletes to from far. And it's kind of already happening, but just at the next level. Last year we've had over a dozen people fly from out of country to train with us, and this year out of state has been like, I think almost close to like 100 people.
So for a high school athlete like who aspires to go pro one day, what mindset or habits should they develop today in their careers?
Yeah. Find your blueprint. Find it fast. And then stay consistent with it to the point where it's non-negotiable. You don't miss your stretch. You don't miss this meal. I don't know how you're going to find balance from it. Everyone figures it out their own way. But find your blueprint and don't stray from it.
And this might be a little off topic. You probably get a lot of guys like coming in and out of this place. What makes you like sit down and say, yeah, I like really want to work with like this guy?
Yeah. Man, so many different factors. So many different factors. That's a little tough to pinpoint, because it's kind of like picking the person that you're gonna date, right? Or picking your best friend.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't pick them. They're just a certain energy that you feel is, wow, it goes with my energy. It just feels good with my body. Hey, yo, not like that, but like it is, like my gut doesn't feel like weird. That sounds weird too, actually. So once you have that feeling, you got to find out why. But that's not a great answer. A better answer would be someone who really takes care of the things other than X's and O's.
Yeah.
The character point. They make eye contact. They're receptive. They're coachable. They communicate well. And if they don't communicate well, they make an effort too. Guys and girls like that who really show a desire to be the best version of themselves. That's who I want to help. And that makes me become the best version of myself. So I choose to work with people like that I know that when I work with them for that hour or those 2 hours, those 3 hours, I'm going to become a better person for it.
So for a young coach listening, what's one lesson you wish you had known early on in your career about developing players?
Man, I'm huge on allowing the journeys to be the journey. Listen outwardly more. And especially when you're talking to these athletes at the higher level who've been through so many trainers, who've been through so much training, listen to them and then adjust your style to fit what they want and need.
So this might be a little off topic, like backtracking a little bit, but as we both know, like basketball changes like every 5 years. The whole landscape of the game. Like nowadays, we have 7-footers bringing up the ball, guard skills, so it's a positionless league. How do you adjust your training regimen to how the landscape of the game has been changed?
So staying up to date with what's important in the game, what's going on in the game, and then also, thankfully, we've been spoiled to have a few friends and a few members of our network in the front offices of the NBA, in the scouting positions of the NBA, in the recruiting places of colleges, the top of AU team. So as we have conversation with them, we know what they're looking for as they shift, or as the game shifts, or as maybe that team might shift. So really, again, conversations and listening to what's needed, and then adjusting our style to, again, why we focused more on movement quality. The game has been a faster pace. Does it get physical? Yes, but typically gets physical towards the end of the game, or the physicality is more actually now a key component of the longevity of the season, where it used to be a battle between every single game. Right. In the 90s or early 2000s, it's not like that anymore. So our training must adjust with that, because the body has to adjust.
So finally, Coach Brian, if you can summarize your entire philosophy from like middle schoolers to NBA pros in one sentence, or basically even one word, what would you want every athlete to remember?
How you do anything is how you do everything.
That makes a lot of sense. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Be intentional with everything that you do. You understand that this dream that you have does have a timestamp. So whether you're middle school or pro, you're dealing with a time frame, making a varsity, making JV, making this contract year the best year ever, making the playoffs, winning a championship. Everyone has the same dream in this life. But you have to remember, there's only one champion. There's only 5 spots on that varsity team. What's going to separate you to make that happen? Well, you're going to have to find your blueprint, and you're going to have to find it fast. Because the more reps, high quality reps you get with your intention, the better off you'll be. And you can get better. You can lock down that 3-point shot and shoot 60%. But if it took you 10 years to do that, you're not going to have that dream anymore. But if you figured out how to do that in 6 months, you have a very high chance. So find that blueprint, whether it's finding help from outsiders or just going internal and figuring out, how can I better my blueprint? How can I sleep better? How can I eat better? So how you do anything is how you do everything. Be super intentional with everything that you do.
Well, Coach Brian, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity today, man, and I wish you the best of luck going forward.
Of course, I'll see you in Vegas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening to Gen Z Hoops. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all major social media platforms at Gen Z Hoops. You can tune in and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and every other podcast platform on the planet. Get ready for the next episode.